Ask any dwarf and they'll tell you. Leave a mountain alone long enough and you're gonna get trolls. It's just what happens. I'm Mike with Expedition Gaming, and today we're playing Covenant. Well, we are back at the mountain, the ancestral homeland of the dwarves, which for far too long has been overrun by the denizens of the deep, but not for much longer. In Covenant, we're going to take on the role of dwarves, who will be taking actions to dig this mountain back out, clear out the unsavory individuals that are still hanging around, and then using the resources that we find along the way to rebuild these halls to their former glory. Now, Covenant is played out over the course of 3 eras, and in each era, you'll get to take 4 turns. At the end of your 4 turns, the era comes to a close, and you do a council phase. The council phase is a time when you can score some points and potentially generate some resources. So after 3 eras and 3 council phases, the game comes to an end, and then you go into final scoring. Now, points in this game are scored all over the place and all throughout the game. There are times when you can score points immediately, and then, of course, you'll score points during that council phase, as well as endgame points. So it's a little hard to highlight up front exactly where those points come from, but they come from all over, and you will discover that as we move through the play. So each era, you get 4 turns. And there are 4 types of actions that you can take on your turn. And those are listed right here on your player board. One action is to dig. And for that's how we're going to open up and reveal the halls of the mountain here. Another action is to skirmish. That's how we're going to clear off these goblins and orcs and trolls out of the halls. Another action is to transport. As you're digging around in here, you're going to come across various resources, gold, mithril, emeralds, and so forth. And the transport action lets you deliver those to these various construction sites located around the board. That will let you unlock your pillars and your gates, which will go back to your player board. And you can take the build action to then build those pillars and gates or your houses and workshops out into the halls of the mountain. So those are the 4 primary actions in the game: building, transporting, digging, and skirmishing. Now, the other elements that are sprinkled around the board here either tied directly into those 4 primary actions or are triggered in one way or another off of those actions. So rather than getting into the nitty-gritty of how each of these things work, let's jump into taking some actions so you can sort of see how that feels and plays. And through the course of that, you will see how they connect with everything else that's out here on the board. Now, just before we get going, there's one more thing I want to show you, and that's the difference in our starting scenarios here. Here's our player board. We're up against the Yeti today, and during setup, you go through a draft, and that draft allows you to choose 4 different tiles that will give you your whole starting situation. A couple of those tiles are endgame objectives that you're shooting towards. One of the tiles is going to be these tradition tiles, and these break the rules in your favor or give you your own unique little abilities. And then the other tiles are these ones here, which are going to be some combination of starting resources as well as your starting positions on these various tracks. So there are 3 different tracks on the board, and your starting position on those is going to be dictated by these old tiles here. Now, our tile here gave us 2 bumps on this track right here. And when we reached this spot, it gave us an additional tradition tile, which is why we're starting with 2 of them, and Yeti is only starting with 1. So again, that draft gave us our own specific little private goals we're going towards. It gave us our starting resources, our tradition tile, and our positions on some of these tracks. The other thing you might notice is that the player boards are unique in the way that they're laid out. You'll see those 4 actions that we talked about here are aligned differently on the Yeti's board. In addition, these benefits that are inside these squares are different on each player board. So while we have access to the same stuff, the arrangement of those things are a little bit different for each player. So with that covered, we can get these things out of the way. Just put those on there for reference so you know how we start with what we have. Now, I just want to mention quickly before we get going that the actions in this game cascade out into many, many other things. So there are a lot of moving parts, which is wonderful, but I'm just warning you, there is a very high chance that I'm going to miss some things along the way. I will do my best to keep my head on straight, but again, odds are I'm going to miss some things along the way. So if you happen to notice anything or spot something that I have overlooked, by all means, please let me know, point it out, and help me keep my head on straight. And with that, let's go ahead and take our first turn. Now, when you take a turn, the first thing that you do is you'll grab one of your 4 dwarves and you'll assign it to one of the actions that you have out here. So we'll grab our dwarf and we will put it, our first action will be to dig. Now, it's kind of maybe hard to see, but there is a tiny little number on that dwarf, and that is the number 1. That number is the strength of that dwarf. And the strength of the dwarf will determine the strength of that action that you're taking. Now, each one of these actions, the strength will contribute in sort of unique ways, and so we'll see that as we do each action. But for the dig action, strength will factor in a couple of different ways. Now, I don't want to send just a strength 1 to this action, so I'm going to boost that with a good old frothy brew. You can boost the strength of the dwarf by sending beer along with him. Now, our starting resources gave us 2 of these tokens here, and whenever you assign a dwarf, you can include exactly 1 token along with the dwarf. There are also +2 tokens, so potentially you can temporarily boost the strength of that dwarf by up to 2. In this case, we're going to boost him by 1. Now, in addition, there are ways that you can permanently increase the strength of a dwarf. Whenever you see that icon and gain that benefit, that allows you to strengthen a dwarf. In which case, this number 2, or this level 1 would increase to a level 2. So he flips over and now he's a level 2. Level 2s can be increased to a level 3, in which case you'd get that guy out. And a level 3 can be taken all the way up to a level 4. Level 4 is the highest that they go up. Now, you will only ever have 4 dwarves in your supply. So when you go from a level 2 up to a 3, you swap them out. All right, so here we are. We're sending our level 1 out with a temporary boost of 1. So we're going to do the dig action at a strength of 2. And once again, digging is how we're going to open up the halls of this mountain. Now, the first benefit that you get when you dig is you're going to find some resources within the rubble as you're digging. If we look up at this here, you can see these are the resources that we have available to us, and you'll see little numbers underneath. This is where your strength comes into play. Now, we've come in with a strength of 2, and so if we wanted, say, this iron here, we'd have to spend 1 of our strength to claim that iron. This is mithril, gold, or a resource of our choice. If you want this first resource, it's going to take a strength of 2. But in this case, I think we're going to choose this mithril, and we'll go with this resource of our choice, and we're actually going to choose iron. We could go with that one there, but why leave a juicy option on the board for Yeti when we can take that one? So we're going to get a mithril and an iron. There's the iron. There is the mithril. And you'll notice now our storage spaces are completely full. We can't hold any more until we unlock more storage spaces. I'll show you how we unlock those here in just a bit. But for now, we've claimed these 2. They go off into just a little discard pile here. Then these ones will slide down and new tiles will come out. So the first benefit of digging is to gain some of those resources. The second benefit of digging is shown right up here. Now, this is the other area that the strength of your action comes into play. If it's a strength 1 or 2, it tells you claim some resources. Then we will gain 1 bump on the mining track. Now, the mining track will give us access to these relics. And as we reach certain thresholds, you'll be able to claim one of the relics that you have reached or previously passed up. Relics are helpful because they will give you a single-use, one-time benefit. You can use it whenever you want, and then it's spent. But then at the end of the game, if you have collected unique sets of relics, those can be worth points. So climbing the mining track is good for access to relics. So with that strength of 2, we got 1 bump on the mining track. And then the last thing that we do on the dig is we actually will dig into the mountain here. You will choose one of the face-down tiles that is adjacent to at least one previously explored hall. Whatever tile you choose, you will gain the benefit that is showing on that tile's back. In this case, we're going to go with this one right here. This benefit is forging a tool. Now, tools are right down here, and you'll notice these are the different actions that you can take in the game. So at the start, you have these 4 actions that you can take, but over the course of the game, you will gain the ability to forge new tools that allow you to take other actions throughout the game. So I think the tool that we want to go with is this one right here. Now you'll notice there is a mithril cost and an iron cost associated. Every one of these tools is always going to cost iron, plus an additional resource that the tool itself will dictate. So we will spend our iron and our mithril that we just got. We will grab this tool, and now we're going to add it into our player board. Now where we place this down is going to affect us in 2 very distinct ways. First and foremost, whatever benefit we cover up, we're going to gain that right away. Second, each one of these columns is associated with a particular end game scoring criteria. So whatever column we lock this into, we're essentially activating that end game scoring criteria. So for our very first placement here, I actually want to go right here. So that's going to give us these keys, 2 bumps on that track, and this is how you unlock additional storage. That icon right there allows us to take off that there. And then we slot that into place. These keys go right up there. I'll explain those in a minute. And then we get 2 bumps on the prestige track. So we come up here, and now we have activated one of those icons, which, as we know, allows us to strengthen a dwarf. So we'll come back over here. We can strengthen any dwarf that we want, but we might as well strengthen one we haven't used yet this round. So that level 1 will come up to a level 2. Now the keys, the benefit of those is once we take the skirmish action and defeat some of the monsters that are out on the board, the defeated monsters will go into our dungeon here. Then during the council phase, we can hang on to the number of monsters equal to the number of keys that we have. So we've just doubled the amount of monsters we can hang on to by getting those keys out. But also, again, importantly, we've now activated that criteria for endgame scoring. This one's going to give us points for the number of monsters that we have in our dungeon. Now the next thing to pay attention to is we have this tradition tile here. This is the one that we got during our starting draft. And this says that whenever we forge a tool, we can advance on any of the 3 tracks in the game. And I think we'll go ahead and advance on this track. This is called the court track. And as you cross these various spaces here, it gives you access to king's coins. And these king's coins, they will give you benefits during the council phase, as well as help unlock bonuses off of your player board. We'll see that more, hopefully, sooner rather than later. So then we refill the tools. And let's finish revealing this. We flip that over. The 2 skulls right here indicate the number of monsters that will be brought onto the tile. In this case, you draw them from this bag randomly, and this one's going to have 2 of them come out. So we've got another goblin and another orc. Now, you'll notice this little diamond on the hull here, that indicates the number of buildings that can be built onto here. We pointed out before we have houses and workshops, and space is limited in these halls, so the number of diamonds indicates the amount of buildings that can be placed, and we'll see that in full detail here shortly. And that is the end of our turn. You get rid of the temporary token there. But as you can see, just a single action on your turn can cascade into many things. So while you only technically have 12 turns in the game, you'll get a whole lot accomplished if you can find some clever combos. Now it's on to the Yeti's turn, and he's looking to pull off his own little clever combo. So he's going to take the Skirmish action, and he's also going to boost it by 1. So he will take this action at a strength of 2. Now the Skirmish action is how we can remove the enemies from the various halls that are out there. Now the strength that you have applied to this action will determine what type of enemies and how many of them you get to remove. We have goblins, orcs, and trolls. Goblins will require 1 strength to defeat. Orcs take 2 strength, and trolls take 3 strength. Now when you are choosing who you're going to take, you can take them from anywhere in the hall. So it's just a matter of how you want to spend that strength. Now with his strength of 2, he could either remove 2 goblins or he could remove 1 troll. However many you remove, you'll gain bumps on this track up here, and then you will gain the resource or the benefit showing on the current die face for that enemy. So in this case, he's got a strength of 2, and he's going to use that to defeat 2 different goblins. So again, he can take them from anywhere. He's going to take 1 from here and 1 from there. Now these will go right into his dungeon. And then, since he defeated a pair of them, he will get 1 bump on that track, which will allow him to claim a tradition tile. he's going to go with this one right here. You'll notice the top two can be claimed, but it's going to cost you some points, which is one of the reasons why we start the game with a few points. But he's claiming this one. It's free to take. And he will slot that in right there. This tile says that whenever he takes the build action, he gets to add 1 strength to that action. So he's gotten that benefit there. That was from that increase there. Now he gets what's on the die face, and in this case, it's another increase on the court track. So he's going to increase once there, which is going to give him a king's coin. And that's these down here. He could take any of them, but similar to the tradition tiles, there is a victory point cost for these ones. So he's just going to go with the free one right here. And by the way, you might have noticed these die faces that are sort of sprinkled throughout the board. You can ignore that. That is for the solo game. We won't be seeing that in action here. But now that he's got his king's coin, he will add it into a slot up here. Now, the benefit of the king's coin you will not receive until we do the council phase. So at the end of the era, after we've taken all 4 of our turns, we go into the council phase. Any king's coins that are up here, you get those benefits. The moment that you receive the king's coin, though, you don't get that benefit, but you do get the benefit of whatever slot you have locked it into. So he's locking it in here. That's going to give him an inlay. An inlay relates to socketing gems or jewels into any one of your tools. So when you get an inlay, you look over to here and you can choose any one of these and you'll pay the cost associated with either the silver or the gold. So it would take a mithril to get either of these, a gold for either of these, or an emerald for one of those. Then, if you've chosen a silver, you'll score 3 points. If you've chosen a gold, you'll get 2 points. In this case, he's going to go ahead and choose this one here, which will cost him 1 gold. So there's the gold. Now that he has this jewel, he can inlay it onto any one of his tools. He's going to inlay it right there. Now, it has to match silver to silver, or if it was a gold, it would need to go into a gold space. In addition, this tradition tile says that whenever he inlays a jewel, if it's a silver one, he gets to activate that immediately. If it's a gold, then he would gain an additional point instead. But since this is silver, he can activate it immediately. And he's just going to take an emerald. Then, again, because it's silver, he will get 3 points for that. And that's his turn. So then he'll do a little bit of cleanup. These scrolls will slide down, and a new one comes out. These will slide down. And then whenever you've claimed the benefit of one of the dice from skirmishing, a distinction, an important note here is that it doesn't matter the number of enemies that you've defeated. You'll only gain this benefit one time. So he could have wiped out 5 goblins, and you still will only gain what's on that die a single time. But then, once you have claimed that benefit, you'll take the die, you'll roll it, and a new benefit shows up. Which, by the way, that's what these are underneath. These are all the die faces to let you know the possible rewards that you could get off of that die. And of course, another silver jewel will come out. Back to us, and for our second action, we're going to build. So we're going to send our level 2 dwarf out, and I'm also going to boost him up with another frothy brew, so we'll take this action at a strength of 3. Now the strength for building will show you what you can actually build, and it's laid out right here. So with a strength of 3, we can build a house, and then our choice of either a workshop, a gate, or a pillar. Now, since we have not unlocked either the gate or the pillar, we're going to do a house and a workshop in one swoop. Now, it's important to note that as you build strength up, you can't split that up. So say you came in with a strength of 5, you couldn't do a 3 and a 2. All of that would have to go toward a single option that's laid out right here. So with our strength of 3, we will take both of these out and build them into the halls. Now, what you build and where you build it will give you a variety of benefits. When you build houses, they will give you a resource depending on the type of hall that you've built into. Each hall has a different type of vein. We've got emerald, gold, and mithril. And so whatever vein you build into, you will receive one of that resource. Mithril here, gold here, and when you build into an emerald hall, you can either choose emerald or iron. In this case, that's exactly what we're going to do, is we're going to build into there, and we're going to choose an iron for the resource. So we'll grab one of those. The benefit of a workshop is that it's going to let you forge a tool or inlay a jewel, or potentially do both. In this case, we're going to build this workshop onto this mithril vein right there, which is going to let us both forge a tool and inlay. So for the tool, we're going to go with this one right here, which is going to cost an emerald and the iron that we just got. So these will go back. And then we can grab this one right here. Now this one, this book is called the Read Action. And this is nice because it's basically a wild. It can serve as any of the 4 basic actions. Now the downside is that it does not have an inlay where you could put a jewel into, but it gives you some flexibility. So I think we're going to lock that into this spot here, which will unlock another house and another workshop to be built in the future. And then we'll gain another strengthening of one of our dwarves. We'll bump him up there. And now we've unlocked this column, or rather activated this column for endgame scoring. That'll score us points for pillars and gates at the end of the game. And now we only have 1 emerald left. So when we look out to the jewels that are out here, we'll have to choose one of these. I think we'll go with this one right here. And again, it's got to go into a gold location. I think we'll place that down right there. That says that when we activate that, we can place one of our available houses down following the normal building rules. Now, when you activate a tool that has an inlay, you can do those in either order. So we could put the house down and then we could skirmish, or vice versa. So that will cost us that right there. And speaking of following the rules of placing, let's take a look over here real quick and show you again the diamonds on these halls indicate the number of basic buildings that each hall can hold. This has room for 1, so this one is full. This one has room for 2, so another basic building could be built into this hall, but not by us. Each hall can only hold 1 of your own basic buildings. And basic buildings are houses and workshops. Gates and pillars are not basic buildings, so they are not limited by that. They have their own building restrictions, and those are kind of outlined right here. And I'll go over those placement rules when we see one of those go down. But just know that for basic building purposes, you're limited to 1 of yours per tile, and only if there is room for that tile to hold it, as indicated by the diamonds. Now, one other thing to show are these tiles right here. Now these are going to go off during the council phases. You can see this symbol here refers to the council phase, and as we finish out our eras and we move into those, after era 1, we're going to score the criteria of that tile. After era 2, we will score the criteria of both this one and that one, and then after our third and final era, we will score all 3 of these. So essentially, this tile is going to score 3 times throughout the game. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to jump on it. This says that we'll get 2 points for every house that we have on an emerald vein, and 1 point for every workshop that's on one of these blue tiles. So we actually just accomplished both of those things with that build there. So hopefully that'll be worthwhile point-wise. Bring out another tool here. And one more. Oh, no, that was a gold, not a silver. Yeti is up, and he is going to dig at a strength of 2. Oh, speaking of which, we did not discard our strength token. So he's digging at a strength of 2, and again, you can activate the inlay or the action in whatever order you want. In this case, he's going to do his dig first. At a strength of 2, he's going to claim both of these for a mithril and an iron. And strength of 2 will give him 1 bump on the mining track and let him excavate. And he's going to go with this here. That's going to let him do the inlay. He's going to choose this inlay right there for an emerald. And again, his special scroll or his tradition tile is going to allow him to activate this immediately, which will get him another strength token. And then it has to go onto a silver. He's only got 1 spot to place it. So it goes right there. We reveal that, and we'll bring 2 more enemies out. They have a cave troll. And now, with that action resolved, he's going to activate the inlay, and he's going to get that emerald right back. These should go away. Over to us. And I think we're going to skirmish. I'm going to come here. Now you might be thinking, now wait a minute. We've got this inlay there. Why not activate that? Well, I think I see a little combo that we can set ourselves up for that we're not quite ready for just yet. So if we take this, it'll position us, and we can come back in on our next turn, do this, and be able to capitalize on that a little bit better than if we just did it right now. So we will take the skirmish at a strength of 2. And for that, I think we're going to pull out that orc right there, which of course takes a strength of 2. It'll get us 1 bump on this track right here. Now, you may have also noticed the scroll that we started the game with on account of our 2 bumps on that track is this one right here, and this gives us a special ability when it comes to claiming the benefits on these dice. Instead of going with the current face that's showing, we can actually choose any of the rewards that are on this track. So I think in this case, we will go with this one right here. We're going to get a gold and a brewski. So we will add the gold in and then one of those. Then we still roll this die like normal. Whoop, hold on, sorry, 1 second. This guy came from right here. I meant to grab it from right there. I grabbed too quickly. Now the reason why, they're the same, they're both orcs, but the reason for that has to do with the end of the game. Now you notice we have built buildings into locations that have enemies. That's no problem. But at the very end of the game, every hall that you have presence in that also has any number of enemies, you will lose 2 points for. So one of the things that we're working toward throughout the game is not only building buildings out here, but trying to make sure that the halls that we have presence in is clear of any enemies. And of course, by presence, that simply means that the hall has at least one building of your color in it. Back to Yeti, and he is going to take the transport action. He'll assign a level 1 dwarf there. When you take the transport action, the strength of that action dictates how many resources you can deliver to the construction sites out on the main board. So with a level 1 dwarf, he's going to be able to deliver 1 resource. So he'll choose an iron. And again, these are the different construction sites you can deliver to. In this case, he's delivering an iron, and he's going to deliver it to this construction site right there. So for each resource that you deliver, you will take one of your little wheelbarrows here and cover up that particular resource. Now that's been delivered. Now you'll notice this little number there that says 1, we've got 2 and 3. Once you have reached the threshold for that construction site, that is how you unlock the special building that's there. So by delivering his single resource to here, he has unlocked his pillar. So that will sit there. Now, when you take this action, if you take more resources to the construction site than what your threshold will allow you to do, so say for example, he took this action at a strength of 2 and he brought 2 resources up here, he would deliver the 1, hit his threshold, and then any spillover would go up to right here. This is the throne room in this area here. There's only 2 ways to be able to deliver up to this area. The most common way is that you deliver more resources than what your threshold will allow. The residual can then be placed up into here. And at the end of the game, whoever has a majority up here will gain 6 points, and second place will gain 3 points. And ties are broken in favor of whoever has delivered furthest up in the rows here. The other way that you could potentially deliver to the throne room is whenever you see that icon right there. That one specifically allows you to transport goods up to, or transport a good to the throne room. Now the next thing is, since he met that threshold, he gets to place out one of his crests here onto the reward spots up here. And he's going to choose this one that'll let him advance, of course, on the court track. So he's just crossed there. Now you'll notice all of these tracks have these yellow lines with a star that's next to them. These stars are important. Sometimes there will be things that reference those stars, like if you had this tradition tile here, then every time you cross a star, you would gain one of these strength tokens. But the other benefit or thing that we're all shooting for has to do with these endgame scoring tiles. Now we chose our 2 tiles during that draft. And at the end of the game, if you have, across all 3 tracks, if you have basically reached 4 different stars, then you can choose one of these tiles to score. If you have achieved 8 of the stars across all those tracks, you'll get to score both of these tiles. And then any stars that you gain beyond the 8, each of those stars are worth 2 additional points. So With ours, one of the things that we're shooting for is tools. Every tool that we have at the end of the game is worth a victory point, and that includes our 4 starting tools. And every strength that's inside our worker pool is worth a victory point. That includes our starting strength. So essentially, you just add up the strength of all your workers, and that's the number of points. So right now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But again, we're going to need stars to be able to score these tiles. But that's it for the transport. His strength let him take a single resource up. He delivered it to the construction site, which met the threshold. He added his banner up, got the benefit for it. There was no residual spillover to take up to the throne room. On to our final turn of this era. So we are going to send this dwarf with the strength token, so he will take this action at a strength of 2. And we're going to activate that as the second thing that we do. So for our first one, for our first skirmish, at that strength of 2, we'll clear out this orc right there. That'll give us 1 bump here, which will allow us to claim another tradition tile. And for that, we're going to go with this. This says that whenever we place a house out, we can remove an enemy from the board. Now, we do not gain any of the normal benefits for that removal, but we still get to place them in our dungeon here. And we get the die reward. I think I kind of like the mithril and the strength token, so we'll just grab that. And of course, we still roll it. That used up our 2 strength, and so we will activate the inlaid jewel now, which lets us put a house out. That is why I was thinking to wait, because now we have this tile, and this house will not only give us the resource for placing it down, but we'll also be able to remove an enemy off the board. So I think we will place this right there, and then this is the enemy that we will remove. And for placing that there, I think we're going to go ahead and take an iron again. Remember that these will give you either emerald or iron, and I guess I'm thinking that because if we want more tools, they always take iron, and so that just seems like a good thing to have around. So we will place him right there, and we'll get our iron. On to Yeti's last turn, and given the fact that he has not forged any more tools, he only has 1 option left. So he's going to send his worker with the strength token, which is a strength of 2. And then, of course, this tradition tile boosts that up to a strength of 3. So he's going to build at a strength of 3, and he's going to, just like we did, place out a house and a workshop. For these, he's going to place his house on this vein here, which he's going to then claim an iron. And of course, 2 diamonds, so there's still room for him. This is his first basic building on there, so placement is just fine. So he will grab an iron for that. And then for his workshop, he's going to place that right there. And the benefit of placing a workshop onto an emerald vein is that you can forge a tool. So he's going to grab both of these iron here and use it to pay for that tool right there. He will slot it into this space here to unlock these 2 buildings and get 2 strength tokens. Now, when you take strength tokens, if I haven't already mentioned this, you can take them individually as 1s, Or you can increase the strength of one of your strength tokens. That's how you get those +2s. So in this case, he could essentially take a +1, and then for his second one, he could upgrade the +1 into a +2. That can be helpful again because you're only ever allowed to send one token out with a worker. But in this case, he's going to spread the love with 2 of those tokens. And then he will activate the inlay there for a third strength token. So now we have both taken 4 actions. All of our dwarves are deployed. That brings us to the end of Era 1, and we advance into the first council phase. So for this, in the council phase, the very first thing that happens is you return all of your workers back to the pool, being sure not to modify their strength. The next thing that happens is you activate any of your King's coins, which we don't have any, but Yeti has 1 here. And again, this is now where we will gain the benefits that are printed on the coin itself. So he's going to get 1 more strength token. You know, instead of taking an extra strength token, he's going to upgrade 1 of them to a strength 2. And then also gain an emerald. Now, by the way, these King's Coin benefits are gained in turn order because sometimes that can matter depending on what they're interacting with. In this case, it's just the 1 coin, so that one's done. The next thing that would happen is any tiles, any tradition tiles that would have any kind of council phase activation. We don't see any of those actually out on any of the boards or here for that matter, but there are some that are out there, and those would go off now at this point. Next up, we check for a jailbreak. This is where the number of enemies and the number of keys we have for our dungeon come into play. This is the phase where the enemies that are here try to bust out, but if there's enough keys to hold them, then they stick around. In this case, we have 3 enemies and 4 keys, so we're just fine. Yeti is just fine. He's got 2 enemies and 2 keys. Let's just say, for example, though, this is what he was looking at. At this point, he would have to choose 2 enemies to get rid of and keep the 2 that fit the keys. Now, the enemies you get rid of matter because the next thing that we do is we score points for all of the enemies that are in our dungeon. Every pair of goblins is worth 1 point. Every orc is worth a point, and every troll is worth a point. So with these here, his pair of goblins is going to get him 1 point. Our 3 enemies are going to give us 3 points. Then next up is when we advance to score the criteria that is on this tile right here. This project tile says that every house built on an emerald vein will score 2 points, and we have 1 there and 1 there, so we'll get a total of 4 points for that. And the Yeti has 1 such house, so he will score 2 points. And then every workshop built onto one of the blue halls will score 1 point. And we have 1, and Yeti has 1, so we will each get 1 point. And one more quick reminder that enemies present on the tiles don't matter now. They will only matter at the very end of the game. So with that project tile scored, that is the end of the council phase. We move into Era 2, and we take our actions again. To kick off Era 2, I think we're going to come out swinging. The pickaxe, that is. Let's come over here and let's do the dig action at a strength of 3. So that'll let us choose 3 of these here. We'll go with one of you, and one of you. 2 iron and a gold. Just enough room. The strength of 3 will let us get 2 bumps on this track right here. We are one step away from being able to claim a relic. And then we're going to dig out this site right here, which is going to let us take a king's coin. And we'll see one enemy come out right here. A lonely little gobbo. For the king's coin, I think we'll take this one right here. And we are going to slot it in right there, which will get us a strength token and a bump on any track. And I think we'll take that bump right there, which will get us a second king's coin. And we'll go with this one here or this one. Strength tokens are good. We will not get this, obviously, until we go into our council phase. So that would set us up with either an iron or a strength token heading into the final. You know what? Let's pay the extra victory point. Maybe that strength token will pay off for us. So it is going to cost us 2 victory points. Drop down there. And every one of these are good options. Resources and strength tokens, always good. We know we really want this. Permanently increasing the strength of a dwarf, it's great. And plus, it's worth points for us. So this is one of the things we're definitely chasing. I'm thinking about the relic space here, because if we look over at those, we could claim this top relic, which gives us one of those strength, increasing the strength of one of our dwarves. And if we unlock the scoring, then relics can be worth points at the end of the game. So that's good. There's a couple of inlays out here that I think would be really helpful for us. Like these jewels right here, when you socket them in, they permanently increase the strength of whatever worker you send there. They bump the strength up by 1. So if we inlaid, say, this one here, then this action would always be done at a +1 strength. That's also great. But here's the thing I'm worried about. We really want to forge a tool this era, because I plan on doing more skirmishing and getting some guys loaded into our dungeon, but we can only hold 1 more. So if we want to be able to hold more, we're going to need to unlock these keys. To do that, we're going to need to forge. And the problem is, one of the main ways of forging is by building your workshops, but the spaces that workshops can give you a tool for are mithril or the emerald veins. And there is not currently one available for us to build into, which makes me think if we're going to forge a tool at all this era, this is our surefire way to make sure we're able to do that. Otherwise, it's going to be a risk. So, as much as I hate to give up on these other options here, I feel like that's our best bet. That's the thing with this game. Every one of the decisions that you make, they cascade into other decisions and they affect them. It's a very wonderfully complex interweaving of decisions. I think we will take this iron and gold and grab this tool right here. We will slot it in here, which will unlock our last set of keys and activate this icon. This icon lets us move some enemies around on the board. Now this can be very helpful if you're trying to chase enemies off of locations that you have presence in, such as this. So I think we will push this guy down to there. We can move one more enemy. We might as well push him into there. Make it a little bit tougher for Yeti to avoid losing points there. Now every tile can hold a maximum of 3 enemies, so this hall is currently at its limit. You know, all that hand-wringing about forging a new tool, Yeti has spotted the one place that we missed, right there. That's what he's going to go after. He's going to have to push for it. He's going to take this action at a strength of 3. And with 3 strength, he's going to spend 2 of it there and 1 of it there. He's going to get an iron here, and for that one, he's going to grab a second iron, which he doesn't quite have space for that. And so he can store 1 of these right now. But whenever you're trying to bring in new resources and you don't have space, you can discard an existing resource instead. So that spent his strength to get the rubble. At 3 strength, he will gain 2 bumps on the relic track. And then he will dig right here. Which we will see 2 more enemies come out here. And he's going to forge a tool, and he's going to forge this tool. It's going to cost him those 2 iron. Then he's going to go right there with it, which will unlock these buildings, increase the strength of one of his dwarves, and gives him some much needed storage space. And then for this jewel, he will take 1 of those iron back. All right, for our next action, I think we are going to come out swinging again, but this time it's going to be the axe. So we will go to here at a strength of 3. And for that, I think we're going to clear out this guy right here. Now he takes a strength of 3, so this would be the only one that we clear out. But that's going to be just fine. At that strength of 3, we will get 2 bumps right here, which will give us a strengthening a dwarf benefit. So we'll push him up to 2. And then we're actually going to, that's the benefit that we want as well, a resource of our choice and a track bump of our choice. And for that, we're going to go ahead and cross this threshold on the mining track. And now that we have reached this little icon here, we get to claim a relic. The relics that we have access to are from here or anyone that we have previously passed. Say in the future, we're crossing, you know, we get to this one here, we could choose from here all the way up. Oh boy. Now, that has been a point of contention and something worth clarifying, which is the icons on this board are difficult to parse out. All the other tracks, when there's a reward, it's pretty plainly printed on there, such as these right here. But the relics, that's not listed on there. You don't see the little relic icon, but it has been confirmed by the designer that the intention here was that you would receive a relic as soon as you hit one of these thresholds. So with that, we're going to grab this one right here. And we will add that in right there. Now again, relics are a one-time use. You can use it whenever you want, and then after it's tapped, it just will hang out there for the rest of the game. And we've actually activated that end game scoring with our latest tool forging. This says we'll score 1 point for each unique relic type. You'll notice that there are different images on the relics. Those are the different relic types. So if we get another one, we probably want to avoid the helmets if we're looking for scoring there. But as it is, we can use this whenever we want to increase the strength of one of our dwarves. And still gain a resource of our choice from right there. So we don't have any emeralds. We might as well grab one of those. So that should be that action completed. Then we can activate our inlay. We'll place a house down. And for this, I think we will place it down right here. Now, I realize that placing it here in the emerald would help us with this score, give us a couple points during the next council phase. But what I'm worried about is we can only place one of our basic buildings on this hall. And as we saw before, this is the type of hall you need to place a workshop into if you want to forge a tool. So I see this more as a potential future tool forging spot than getting a couple points out of it. So I think we'll stick it over here for now. The other reason why is it has to do with what the game refers to as districts. Districts are adjacent, contiguous, similar colored halls. So we have one district here of 2 tiles. We have one district here of 2 tiles. That's the district of 1 tile. By placing it over here, instead of right here, which is free of monsters or enemies, we have presence in a separate district. And one of the things that you can score points for is having presence in various districts. So we'll probably want to clear this guy out, but that's my thinking for building right there. But for building right there, we will get a resource, and that will get us 1 gold. Then this tile will go off. Since we have placed a house down, we can remove an enemy. And again, we do not gain the benefits for it, but it will go into our dungeon. And for all of that, we might as well grab this guy off of there. We can add him in right there. Oh, another helmet. One thing I am just now realizing is Yeti has been shorted a point. When he did this transport action, he should have gotten some points. You receive victory points or glory points for the type of resources that you deliver when you transport. If it's an iron or an emerald, you'll gain a point. If it's a gold or a mithril, you'll gain 2 points. So when he delivered that iron, he should have gained 1 victory point. So that is owed to him, and now he is caught up. On to his actual turn. He's going to take the build action at a strength of 3. So he'll come out here. That is a level 1 dwarf. Strength token of 1 plus his 1 over here. So he's got a total of 3 for this action. And with those 3, he's going to build out a house and a workshop. He's going to put the house down right there. which will gain him a gold. And clearly banking on moving some enemies around or fighting them off here at some point. And then he's going to build his workshop right there, which will allow him to forge a tool. He's going to forge this book right here, which is going to cost him an iron and a gold. And then he's going to slot it in right here, which will unlock his last storage unit and give him 2 bumps on the mining track. So he will come down here, and because he has passed that, he will gain access to either this relic or that relic. He's going to go with this one here, which will allow him to inlay a jewel. He's actually going to go ahead and tap it right away. So that will allow him to choose one of these, and he's going to go with this one here, which will cost 1 emerald. And he will inlay it onto that tool right here. That tile will allow this to go off right away. So he will increase right there. And then, of course, he'll gain 3 victory points. And that goes away. That inlay will go off, which will gain him a strength token right back. For our next turn, I had originally thought that we might skirmish a couple of times in this era. But the way this is shaking out, we're already at 5. So we can take on 1 more. And of course, if we got more than that, then we could sort of mix and match who we wanted to keep in the dungeon. But here's the other thing that I'm thinking about. When I look over at the scoring, the project tile for this coming council, this is going to score different types of buildings that are out on the board. We currently only have 2 types, and it would be nice to get a third, especially as we see Yeti is poised to have 3 types out there. So maybe in the interest of keeping up with the Yetis', I'm thinking maybe we take the transport action, just at a strength of 1, and let's get rid of a gold. And we will transport that over to here. And of course, that will score us 2 points. And since that meets the threshold here, we'll be able to claim that there, which will get us a bump and a much needed star. But most importantly, it will unlock our pillar. Now, seeing our pillar come out, Yeti's feeling the pressure to get his built while he has first dibs on where it goes. So he's going to send his strength to dwarf along with some brew. So he's got 2, 3, 4 strength for this build. And with that 4 strength, he's going to build out a workshop and his pillar. And the pillar is going to go right there. Now, when you place pillars, they go at the junction between 3 different halls. And the requirements for that are listed right here, and the requirements for gates are listed right here. Now, you'll notice that when you place down a pillar, it cannot be within one segment of any other pillars. So, as an example, Now that this is built here, we could not place our pillar right there. There needs to be at least one segment of separation between these pillars. So that's why he wanted to build right away, because there are some placement restrictions there. And then for the gates, whenever you build one of these, the rule there is that the hall tiles that you place a gate down on, basically they can't have any other gates touching that tile. So his pillar placement there is legal, and the benefit of when you place pillars down is that you will get to advance on any of the 3 tracks depending on the vein type that you have built onto. So in this case, he has a gold vein and 2 emerald veins that his pillar is touching. The emerald veins will give you a bump on the mining track. So with these 2 veins here, he will get 2 advancements on that track. And the gold vein will give you an advancement up here. So he's 2 spots away from, on 2 different tracks, he's at the threshold of earning an additional star. And for his workshop placement, he's going to place that right there. And the benefit for building a workshop on a gold vein is that you get to inlay a jewel. So he's going to choose this right here, which is going to cost his mithril. And then he will socket that in right there. And again, his tradition tile there lets him activate that right away. So he'll take an advancement right there. Now that that action's done, he's going to activate the inlay on that tool, which is going to get him 1 more advancement on this track, which will get him a king's coin. He's going to go with this one here. It's going to cost him 2 points. But it'll allow him to advance on any track of his choosing during the next council phase. So he's going to slot that in right here, which will get him a strength token and an advancement on a track of his choice. He will choose the prestige track, which will earn him a star and allow him to strengthen a dwarf. So he's going to strengthen this level 1 up to a level 2. And that's his turn done. Our final turn of the era, and with that project tile in mind, focusing on getting another building type out. And I was originally thinking that we would just do the build action to get that out there. But we can only do, whatever we do, it's only going to be at a strength of 2. And at a strength of 2, we could build the pillar, but that's all that we would be able to do. And so I wish we could get up to a strength 4, and then we could do what the Yeti just did and put out a workshop and a pillar. But since we can't do that, I think I see another way that we can get this out and accomplish even more than just that build. So instead of the build, we are going to do a strength 2 dig. So we will start out grabbing our tiles, and I think we'll grab a gold and an emerald. And actually for that, I don't even want the other emerald. I just want a gold. So we'll ignore the other emerald, kind of like what we have sitting there. At a strength 2, we will gain 1 bump on the mining track. And then for the actual dig, we're going to go with this hall right here, which is going to give us a king's coin. It's going to cost us a victory point, but I say we go with this one here. We will slot that in right there, which will give us a relic. And for the relics, we have access to either of these two. This one looks pretty good. Number one, it's a different type of relic than what we currently have. More importantly, this will let us place out any building. So we can use that to get our pillar put out. Finish revealing that. That'll bring out 2 more enemies. And now with our turn done, we can go ahead and use this relic here. So we'll activate that. That will let us place out any building of our choice. Obviously, we're going to go with our pillar here. So we'll grab that. And I think we'll put it right there. There's at least one junction there in between our pillars, so placement is legal. 2 emerald veins is going to give us 2 advancements on this track, and 1 gold vein is going to give us an advancement on the prestige track. And for Yeti's final turn of the era, he is also going to dig. He'll take his level 2 worker. So that's going to be 2 + 1 for strength of 3. And he's going to choose these 3 resources here, 2 gold and an iron. And at a strength of 3, he will be able to advance twice on the mining track, which will allow him to claim one of these relics now that he has hit that little arrow symbol right there. So he's actually going to take the one that he's right next to. And then for the dig, he's going to go after this hall right here. That's going to give him 1 advancement on the mining track and 1 advancement on the prestige track. With his turn, that action completed, he will go ahead and activate the jewel there, which will increase him there and cross a star threshold. Then with all of his actions done, he's going to go ahead and activate that relic, which is going to let him forge a tool. He will forge this one right here for a gold and an iron. And he'll slot it in right here, which will give him 2 more bumps on the prestige track. So he's crossed that. He'll get to take a tradition tile, and he's 1 step away from earning another star. For the tile, he'll choose this one right here, which says if he places out gates or pillars, then he'll get a strength token and a bump on the court track. And that completes the second era. And so now we move into the next council phase, at which point we will bring all of our workers back. Next up, we will gain the rewards shown on our King's coins. So here we'll gain a strength token, a point, an advancement on the mining track, and a resource of our choice. I think for this, we'll grab a mithril, and we'll swap out one of the golds for that mithril. Yeti's going to gain a strength token and an emerald. And then an advancement of his choice. And for that one, he's going to go with Prestige track, which will give him a star, and he can strengthen a dwarf. He's going to strengthen this level 2 dwarf into a level 3. Next up, we check to see if any of the enemies escape out of the dungeon. We have a total of 6 keys and only 5 enemies. No problem there. Same with Yeti, plenty of space. So now we'll score points based on who is in our dungeon. Yeti has just 2 goblins, which will get him 1 point. We have 2 orcs, 2 trolls, and a single goblin. He will not score a point. We need a pair there, so that's going to be 4 points for us. And with that, we will move into scoring the next project tile. So again, this one here is going to give us 2 points for every different type of building that we've built out into the halls. We have 3 different types: a pillar, a house, and a workshop. And in fact, Yeti has the exact same thing. So we will each score 6 points for that. And then we score this project tile again. Houses on Emerald are worth 2. And we have 2 houses like that, so that'll get us 4 points. Yeti has 1 house like that, so he will get 2 points. Workshops on blue are worth 1 point, and we each have 1 workshop on a blue, so we'll each score 1 more point for that. And with that, we move into the third and final era. And since we're scoring points, this is a great time to get Yeti caught up on some points he has been missing. There are 2 different inlay actions he did that he did not get 3 points for his different jewels. So let's give him his missing 6 points, and I think we're all caught up now. All right, as we head into the third and final era, here's kind of what I'm eyeing up. These project tiles seem like we should put a gate out, because that's going to score for a gate, and of course that'll boost that one up a little bit. So a gate seems like a good idea. So I'm thinking that. We also should probably skirmish and try to clean up some of the enemies that are that we have presence in. And right now it's not too bad. It's just this one here. But if we build a gate, that's just something that we need to keep in mind. So I think our starting direction for right now will be get the gate out, clear out some of these enemies, and then we'll see where we're at that point for some of our final moves. With that in mind, our first move, we will take our level 1 dwarf and we will transport. And I think we should transport this emerald over to this location right here. That construction site, again, only has a threshold of 1, so we have met that, which means we'll get a bump on the court track, unlock our gate. And the emerald will score us 1 point. And then, hot on our heels, Yeti is going to take the same action. He's going to transport with a strength of 1, and he will send out this gold to the same location. The gold will score him 2 points, And he will unlock that gate. And he's actually going to claim a strength token. And instead of getting a single, he's going to upgrade that one into a 2. For our second turn, it is time to build. For this one, we're going to need to muster some might. So I think we will tap this relic here, and we're going to upgrade this strength 2 into a strength 3. We're going to take this strength 3 along with our strength token for a level 4 build. And the level 4 is going to let us put this gate out and this workshop out. For the gate, gates straddle 2 different tiles like that. And as we saw before, the only requirements there are that the 2 tiles that the gate touches, those tiles cannot have any other gates touching them. So obviously with the first gate down, no problem there. The benefit of building gates is that they score you points. And they'll score you a different number of points depending on the veins that you've built on. Mithril will give you 3 points, gold 2, and emeralds 1. So by building this, we've given ourselves 3 plus 2, 5 points. And now for the workshop build, we're actually going to put it right on this mithril vein. And again, the benefit of that, it allows us to both forge a tool as well as take the inlay action. So the tool that we're going to forge will be this one right here for a mithril and an iron. Then we're going to slot that in right here to unlock our last buildings and get strength tokens. And I think for that one, we are going to take a +2 strength token. Then for the inlay, we're going to spend this gold to grab this jewel right here. I'd like to put it on the tool that we just forged, but it's silver, that's gold. So it's got to go one of these, which means I don't know if we'll actually get to use it, but if we do, it's pretty great. We can just remove an enemy off the board and gain the benefits. But I don't know if that's in our future. Either way, though, it'll get us 3 points. So converting a gold into 3 points doesn't seem like a bad idea either. Yeti, he's coming out swinging with the fur a-rippling. He's going to take a strength 5 dig action. So the first thing will be claiming this stuff, and he's basically just going to take all 4 of these, and you can't quite get everything in this, but he'll get an emerald, a mithril, and he's going to take iron for this one here. So 2 iron, an emerald, and a mithril. Then with that strength 5, he's going to advance 3 spaces on the mining track, which will cross him over that threshold there. Then for his dig, he's going to claim this tile right here, which will get him a king's coin. King's coin, he's not super worried about. He's just going to go with something that doesn't cost him a point and will gain him a point. But what he is going to do with it is forge a tool. And for that, he will choose this here, which will cost a mithril and an iron. And he's going to slot it in right here, which is going to cost his last iron, but it will gain him a relic. Looking out over here, he has access to all three of these. He doesn't have either a helmet or the necklace, but he's going to go with this one here to slot that in right there. So that action is all done. He's going to activate the jewel there, which will give him one more advancement on the court track. And with his turn done, his action's completed, he's going to go ahead and use that relic to gain 2 advancements on the prestige track. So that'll bring him up to here, which will get him a tradition tile. He's going to grab this one right here. This one says that at the end of the game, if you have enemies, if you have presence where there are enemies, normally you're going to lose 2 points. In this case, it takes it down to 1 point. So it basically cuts in half the penalty for having presence where there are enemies. And once again, he has hit up just about every area of the board here. Ooh, a lot of emeralds. Oh my goodness. A lot of emeralds. And you know what? As it turns out, I think we are indeed going to see and use this. I was originally thinking for our last couple turns that we know we want to skirmish to clear off some of those enemies, and I thought we should probably build so that we can get a workshop out, which will let us forge another tool, and then we can use that to slot in to one of these columns for some better endgame scoring. But I think I see a better way to do this. So what we're going to do, we are going to dig at a strength of 2. And for that, we'll grab some mithril and an emerald. And then that will give us 1 advancement on the mining track, which will allow us now to claim a relic. We're going to go with this one. Yes, we do already have a necklace, but we're going to be able to forge a tool without having to do the build action. So that's going to be pretty great. And by the way, I got to address this. I've been breaking a rule. It's easy to overlook this one. You are not allowed to use a relic the turn that you get it. So I have broken that a couple of times. I'm sorry about that. I think things still probably would have played out roughly the same as what we've seen so far. But according to the rules, you are supposed to hang on to these relics the turn that you get it. And then in future turns, you can go ahead and use it. So for what it's worth, we will hold on to that for right now and use that in a future turn. So we got our resources. We advanced on the track here. And now we are going to dig out a hall. And I say we go with this one. This icon means, again, that we can clear off any enemy, and we will gain the benefits of what you would normally get for defeating that enemy. Unlike this one over here that says remove an enemy but do not gain the benefits, this one specifically says pull off a goblin or an orc and gain the benefits as usual. And I think we will grab this orc right there, throw him in the slammer. That will gain us 1 bump on the prestige track, which will give us a tradition tile. And I think for this one, we are going to pay a victory point because that'll gain us a couple of points for every set of enemies that we have in our dungeon. So we will lose that point, but we will gain that. And then instead of gaining that, I think we'll go with this benefit here for an emerald and then an advancement on the court track right there. That may not pan out for us, but I'm thinking if we can get even one more bump on that track, then it will allow us to claim a king's coin and maybe we can do something with that. We're going to have to take these and make a new pile out of them. For now, we'll just randomize this real quick. And there we go. On to Mr. Yeti's turn, and he is going to go digging again at a strength of 3. So he's going to grab 2 emeralds and an iron. A lot of emeralds. Then that will get him 2 advancements on the mining track, which is going to let him claim another one of these relics. And he's going to go with this one. And he is not going to use it this turn. And for the dig, he's going to go right here. It's going to give him an advancement right there, as well as right there. And then he'll take an iron for his jewel there. All right, into our final turn, and I think we're set up nicely to clear out some bad guys. Now, one thing I do want to fix, when we forged this last tool, we did not tap into our scrolls ability up here, which lets us advance anywhere. And when that was happening, I wouldn't have known that we'd be on that threshold. I definitely would have pushed up on this track here, hoping to get the strength increases. So we'll just retroactively fix that there. Now, since we didn't acquire the relic this turn, we can go ahead and use that now before we do anything else. That's going to let us forge a tool. And looking at the tools, there's only one that we actually have the resources for. So we're going to grab this for an emerald and an iron. We're going to slot that in right here, which will let us unlock that final storage space. It will allow us to deliver something up to the throne room. We're going to choose a mithril for that. And we'll send that right up to there, which will score us 2 points. And then we can advance 2 on the court track, which will get us another king's coin. And for that one, we'll just grab this, which is free of cost. And we'll slot it in right there, which is going to let us upgrade this level 2 into a level 3. And now for our actual action. We're going to send this level 3 with this +2 And we're going to take the Skirmish Action at a strength of 5. Now looking here in all of the halls, we only actually have 2 halls where we have presence and there are enemies. So these are the ones we want to focus on. And with a strength of 5, we can take out the troll and the orc. So we will grab the troll, grab the orc. And that's going to give us a total of 3 advancements on the prestige track. Now this will give us a strength increase to a dwarf out here. It doesn't matter who it goes to, but it will give us some points thanks to that guy if we decide to claim that one. And then the benefits that we take off of the dice don't really matter all that much when it comes to at least resources or track bumps. None of the tracks are we on the verge of either gaining a good benefit or crossing a threshold. So I think for that, the thing that makes the most sense is that we'll just take the faces that show actual victory points. So that'll be 2 there and 1 there. So 3 victory points and 2 strength tokens. These guys will also go into the slammer. And now that the skirmish action is done, we can activate the jewel here, which lets us put a house down. For that, we're going to place it right here, which will get us a gold. And as a reminder, whenever we place a house down, we can remove an enemy. We don't gain any benefits, except we will benefit from clearing this enemy out of where we had presence due to our pillar. So with that, we were able to remove any enemy presence from where we have presence. So I think we're sitting pretty good there. And that's it for us. On to Mr. Yeti's final turn. He is also going to activate his relic there, which will let him increase that up to a strength 2. And he's going to send everything out to the build action. So he's got 2, 3, 4, which means he's going to be able to build a workshop and his gate. Actually, before those get built, we need to do a little cleanup out here. Now he will build his workshop and his gate right after we roll these dice. His gate will go down right here. No enemies, which is great, and these are the highest scoring ones. So that's 3 plus 2 points, so he will get 5 for that. He will build his workshop right there. Now again, the mithril vein is going to let the workshop both forge a tool as well as inlay a jewel. He's going to forge that for an emerald and an iron. And he's going to slot it in right there, which will let him deliver something to the throne room, 2 advancements on the court track. He's going to send an emerald up to the throne room, which lets him now come in second place and score 3 points. I'm just realizing we should have placed our own when we did that. And now the 2 advancements on the court track here will get him a king's coin. I'll just grab the free one here. And he will slot it in right there, which will let him claim a relic. And for this one, the only relic type out here he doesn't have is this, so he'll go with that one. The tool has been forged. Now he can inlay with a jewel. He's going to spend his emerald to gain this one right here, which will get him 3 points. And then he can inlay this right there, and his scroll will let him set it off right away. So he'll get that emerald right back. And he can now move an enemy. And for that, the dirty dog is sliding this goblin out of his hall and into our hall. So he freed himself up and gave us a situation that we actually can't do anything about because we are out of turns. And then the last thing for his turn is he will activate his inlay there, which will let him advance one more space on the court track. And that cascade of events brings us to the end of our third and final era. So now we will move into our last council phase. Now for this one, the workers come back, although that doesn't matter much. And then we're going to activate all of our king's coins up here. So that'll get us a strength token, an emerald, a resource of our choice, and then an advancement on the mining track, and 2 points. The Yeti is going to get an iron, an emerald, and a mithril. A strength token, and an advancement on a track of his choice. Which, it doesn't matter much, but he'll go with that. Which will, well, why not? We'll crank him up to a level 2. I'm also realizing that when he put his gate out, we forgot to give him this reward there, which is another strength token and one more advancement on the court track. And now it's time for a jailbreak. We got more guys in here than we can hold. We can hold a total of 6, so we'll keep those 3 and those 3. These guys, they're hitting the road. And then we can score them, so those will get us 6 more points. The Yeti is sitting just fine with his pair of goblins. They have apparently spacious accommodations over here, but that will score him 1 point. And then we will score all 3 of these project tiles. The most recent one says that gates built on mithril veins will score 2 points. The Yeti has built one on a mithril vein, as have we, so we will both get 2 points for that. Now this one here says that for every pillar, rather every blue tile that is touching your pillar will score you 2 points. So both of us probably could have placed this one a little bit better. We only have one blue tile touching our pillar. That'll score us 2 points. The Yeti has the exact same thing. So we both will get 2 points for that. Back to this one here. You'll gain 2 points for every different type of building. At this point, we both have 4 types of buildings that are out there, so we'll each get 8 points. And for one final time, we will score this. Every house on an emerald vein will score 2 points. And of course, that part hasn't changed. We have 4 points there. Yeti has 2 points. And then every workshop on a blue tile will score 1 point. And for that, we each have 1. So we'll both score 1 point right there. All right, that is the end of the last council phase. So with that completed, we now head into final scoring. And the very first thing that we score in final scoring is the king's throne. And again, whoever has a majority up here will score 6, and whoever is in second place will score 3rd. Since we are tied for presence up here, the tie is broken by whoever has claimed the highest level of resource. So we win the tie, we'll get 6 points, Yeti will get 3. The next category that we score is going to be our personal objective tiles here. And again, we can score these only if we have achieved enough stars. 4 stars will let us score one of these tiles. 8 stars would let us score both of them. Now, unfortunately for us, we did not get 8. We were very close. We've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We were just a couple of steps away from getting 8. Yeti, on the other hand, he did get it. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he will get to score both of his objective tiles. Us, on the other hand, we're going to have to choose between these two. This one says 1 point for every tool that we have forged, and it also includes our starting tools. So we actually have 9 tools there that would be worth 9 points, or 1 point for every strength that we have among our worker pool. So we actually have 2 3s and 2 2s for 10 points. So only scoring 1, that one's going to get us the additional points. So we'll score this one for 10 points. Now Yeti, with his 8 stars, is going to be able to score both of his tiles. And he was gunning for scrolls and inlays. This is likely why we saw him press so hard for inlays earlier on. So he has 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 for his inlays, and 8 points for his scrolls, or his tiles here, for a total of 18 points. At this point, if anyone had scored more than 8 stars, that's where each one of those additional stars would be worth 2 additional victory points. Not the case here, so now we move on. Next thing that we check for is the presence of enemies where we have presence out here in the hall or in the mountain. So we are only affected now by this single hall right here, thanks to Dirty Dog Yeti that pushed it in there. Now we have 2 buildings that give us presence here, but you don't deduct that twice. Just the fact that we have presence here and there's an enemy, and it doesn't matter how much presence for us or how many enemies, we'll lose 2 points for that tile right there, which creeps us back closer to his score. Now Yeti, on the other hand, he has presence where there are enemies on 2 different tiles. So normally that would lose him 4 points, but because of this tile here, he's only going to lose half of that, so he'll lose 2 points as well. And the final major category that we will now score are the tools that we have forged into our player boards. There are 4 different categories, and the first one says that for each district where you have presence, you get as many points as the number of forged tools in this column. So when we look out at the mountain, remember districts are contiguous clusters of the same color. So this would be one district, and that's one district. So we have presence in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 districts. Presence in 5 districts. We have 1 tool here, so we will get 5 points for that. Now Yeti's board he has slotted in 2 tools for that same criteria, so he'll get 2 points for every district that he has presence. And he has presence in 1, 2, because this gate will give him presence there, 3, 4, 5 as well. So present in 5 districts, each one of those will give him 2 points. That will give him a total of 10 points. The next category here is every pillar and gate will give you number of points equal to the number of tools that you have here. Now the interesting thing with this is that those pillars and gates do not need to be built out into the mountain. Basically, they just need to be unlocked from the construction sites. So whether they're on your player board or in the mountain, they will score you points. We have 1 tool, and we have 2 of these monumental constructions, 1 pillar and 1 gate. So that'll get us 2 points. Yeti has 2 tools, so for every one of his monumental constructions, he will get 2 points. And of course, he's got a gate and a pillar, so he'll get a total of 4 points for that. Next up is unique relics. For each unique relic, we will gain 1 point. We have 2 unique relics, so we will gain 2 points for that. And Yeti is also cleaning up on this one. Each unique relic will get him 2 points, and he has 5 unique relics, so he's going to gain 10 points. And the final category, each enemy held in our dungeon will gain us 2 points. We've got 6 over there, so we're going to get 12 points for this. So as you cross the 100 threshold, you get the distinct honor of flipping that over to indicate that you have scored 100 points. Mr. Yeti did not score this category at all. Now, the very last thing that you score is all of your leftover resources. All of your resources here, as well as your support tokens. You take all of the strength of that support, whether it's a +2 or a +1, you add it all up, and then you add that to your resource total, and you divide it by 3, and you will gain that many points rounded down. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we will gain 2 points for our leftover resources. Yeti has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 as well. So he will also gain 2 points. He will get the honor of flipping his banner over. But the ultimate honor, the victor of the game, is us. We did it. We bested Yeti. Which I'm kind of surprised. I feel like, the mountain would be his home territory. He should have had a little bit of an unfair advantage. But there you have it. That's a 2-player game of Covenant. This is a game that fires off combos left and right. There are so many ways to cascade actions and link one thing into another that you're never out of options. And that's another thing about this game is when you think you have an idea about how you want to do something, there's usually 2-3 ways that you can go about doing it, and then you're just trying to evaluate what kind of cascade you want to set off. And so it creates a lot of space for creative thinking. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, I hope that this gave you a good sense of how it plays and whether it would be a good fit for you. Thank you for joining, and thank you for watching. And until next time, I'll see you on our next expedition.